first couple laps on track. This was a first session in the wet at Watkins Glen. It was the end of the practice session, so had 3 laps to get out there and see what our car did. We just happened to get out there pretty late this time, but the important thing here is searching for grip and adaptation. I mean, that's the key thing in the wet. It's never going to be the same from lap to lap, and it's never going to be the same from session to session. Every time you're out there, you need to be able to adapt and find where that grip is, and then keep that as a mental note for your next lap on track. So you can see here, first lap out, I already saw a little bit of what cars were doing. That's a good mental note for me already. But as you can see, I'm feeling out the grip. Throttle is just on and off a little bit, just modulating, feeling how much more I can push it here, and realize, all right, grip is pretty good. Same thing, little crack of the throttle, just more confidence thing coming over the crest, seeing how much speed we can carry. The grip level's pretty good, so we increase the speed. So just slight things, being a little bit more cautious as we're getting out here into the brake zone. Come in here, braking pretty early compared to usual. To start with, I always brake super early, a bit lighter, get a feel for how much grip's actually on the track. I've run into situations where I brake on the dry line and all of a sudden there's just no grip on the dry line under braking whatsoever. So, you just lock up all fours straight off, off track, which obviously you don't want to do. Always back up your brake zone, get a feel for it first. If you feel like there is a huge lack of grip on the dry line under braking, move a car width on the inside. There's going to be way more grip there if it's super rubbered in under braking. I can think of the chicane at Road Atlanta. That might be a place where as you get into the compression zone, a ton of rubber gets laid down, just move off to the inside a little bit. That's going to help out your braking potential a ton at a place specifically like that. Road America into Canada Corner is a big one. That's one place where I have gone into the gravel trap because I tried braking in the dry lines. Just things to keep in mind and make mental notes of if it's a super hard brake zone for a corner coming up. You can see here, this is a case where that dry line is still going to be faster. And you can already see it in the track that people have been running on. You can see these 2 lines forming just right where it's clearing out some of the water. When I see that coming to the corner, I already know, okay, curbs are going to be wet, so I need to keep that in mind. Just hit them straight on as much as I can here. And I'm going to be trying to avoid all the extra water on the sides of the road. I'm just following where cars have been driving at this point, while also searching for grip in other places. But you can see that line just forming. Again, very hard to get to a wet weather line in these types of corners just because they are pretty high speed. There's not a lot of room in other places to run. Following those tracks, pretty easy on throttle. And I'm just getting a feel for the high speed stability too. In this corner on the dry line, I'm thinking, all right, I'll try this out. Looks like there's a bit of dry space here. So we're experimenting with the line choice a little bit. A similar thing here. I'm taking a little bit wider of an approach because I don't see as clear of a dry spot on the inside. Now I'm able to bring it back down a tiny bit before easing on the power. Traction seems good to me. And as I'm going through this, I'm making mental notes. All right, there's a little bit more time in each of these places. I'm not having any super scary moments. I haven't quite found that limit of grip yet. So I'm making that note. Okay, there's a little bit more potential in each of these corners. Similar thing here. Try to get on the power a little bit. I can feel hard to see in the video, but the traction control was kicking in a little bit at that point. So that tells me, all right, that's an upper limit of grip. Maybe I need to find some extra grip on the outside line. Maybe there's some more potential to get through there. And also that's another note for your BMW, Tim, if you're able to adjust traction control settings a little bit, maybe go with like a street or sport setting. If you do end up in the wet, different race cars, we always adjust TC and ABS to be more of a wet weather mode just to help get some extra confidence in the car. And obviously, in case anything does go sideways, you have more assist and stability to keep you settled. Now here, this is I don't say the one hard braking corner at Watkins Glen, but it's certainly harder than other places on track. And that's why I'm braking a little bit offline. So it's not a whole lot of an adjustment, but it is just enough for me to say, all right, I've got a little bit more confidence just on the inside here. I'll take the brakes in, see how we feel. Felt pretty good. Looking out for sealant patches. So you see this, it's a little bit of a change in the pavement color, but in the dry, it's a super slick black patch. Provides a lot of grip in the dry, a lot of rubber gets laid down, but in the wet, obviously these can be pretty diabolical. My first instinct is to avoid that as much as possible. This is really the only area where I've really decided I need to go with a dry weather line here. And that goes for pretty much every track you'd go to. If you end up looking for those sealant patches, or where they are on track from driving around there in the dry, or you recognize this change in color, change in like tone of gray on track, that's typically going to be a sign of a lot less grip out on track. There's a lot of little visual cues, just different tones of the pavement. You want to look for those more dull patches of the road where there's less sheen, less water laying on the track to start with. So I made a mental note of that. You can see just running the outside of it. As I cross back over, I'm able to get back on power nice and easily. Same thing here, a little bit of a wider approach back to the dry line, and it seems like there's a good amount of grip here. Really, all these outlaps they're exploratory. You're finding those limits of grip in different places. Feel free to play around with the throttle a little bit, figure out how much you can actually push in some of these turns, and mental notes for the next time by. I mean, it's all just about knowledge, just learning how much you can take in each corner or how much less you can in some cases. Also, paint line right here. I'll just fast forward to the fast lap 2 real quick. Anything like this on track is going to be rough if you touch it. So this is the out lap. We'll go here to the fast lap, and you can see just getting on the paint a little bit. That was enough to induce a good bit of understeer in the car and make it tough for me to get around. I had to back out of the throttle here. A little tough to see, but tried picking it up and just couldn't quite get down to it because I had those 2 wheels on the paint. That's a little bit of experimentation. Doesn't have to be a huge difference in speed. You don't have to be full sideways, full lock to find that difference in grip. But, as long as you're going at a slightly conservative pace to start with, your first couple laps out on track, make mental notes of what you feel. Try pushing in safe ways around the track where hey, if I'm going to overshoot the brake zone here, there's plenty of runoff for me to recover the car. If I'm going to get on throttle a little bit early, I'm at a low enough speed where I can recover it. Just little things like that. Again, your high speed corners, you really want to take like you would in the dry. Just gradually build up to it. Stable platform, light braking, longer braking periods for the wet, but low speed corners, feel free if it's a safe enough entry where you're able to charge. Just get a feel for it, get a feel for the brakes, just building up that confidence, that knowledge base, just progressively lap after lap.